Javier Bardem, Tommy Lee Jones, Kelly MacDonald, Woody Harrelson, Garrett Dillahunt, Josh Brolin, an epic Coen brothers film. Is he a victim of circumstance or his own poor choice? Llewellyn makes a split-second decision, one that most of us would probably make in his stead, that puts himself and his loved ones in jeopardy and will ultimately lead to their death. But it isn't just their death that the film points to. It's really about the changing nature of crime, the changing nature of law enforcement, the changing nature of life in the world, while at the same time, the unchanging nature of life in the world, marching inexorably towards relentless fate, uncertain and unable to see what is coming. No one sees what is coming, but then relentless fate personified, on the hunt, trying to get his man, living by a principle, so he thinks, of justice, so he says, also random chance. This is amazing stuff. This is 2007, No Country for Old Men. Llewellyn is out hunting when he stumbles across a drug deal gone wrong. Pickup trucks out in the desert, participants laying around dead. He had seen a wounded dog. He finds a dead dog. He finds a barely clinging to life participant in a truck. And in the back of that pickup truck, drugs. And he finds a briefcase with $2 million. Whatever thing had caused the deal to go south and go sour, he ends up with this money. How do you say no to it? Despite the fact that it's obviously from a criminal enterprise, it's obviously like dirty money, but it's money you can use for your life. You can do good things with it. Who does it belong to? It's not like it belongs to the store over there or the bank over there or this citizen over there. This is blood money skimmed off of the lives and the suffering of drug addicts. It belongs to these guys that are dead in the desert or the one that's clinging to life. You might as well take it. Later on, in an act of mercy, he returns to the scene to take water to the dying man. Of course, it's too late, but now Llewellyn, he ends up wounded. He ends up being with bad guys hot on his trail. He ends up with Anton Chigurh. Relentless fate, a man that appears at first to be hired by the cartel, but then it's not clear who he works for other than himself. But he is on the hunt to track down Llewellyn and track down the money, and now all bets are off. From there, No Country for Old Men follows what we kind of expect to be a crime, justice, adventure sort of story. There's amazing things done, cars blown up so that pharmacies can be raided to get the stuff you need to stitch up your own wounds. They will do all sorts of things to track and hunt one another. It's almost like the epic stories about snipers in World War II. There's something like spy versus spy going on, and you are expecting in good criminal justice sort of fashion that all of this will come to a head and the good guys will prevail. Now, to be clear, because a lot of people commenting on this film say that there's a good guy, bad guy dynamic, that Llewellyn is the good guy. On the other hand, while he has lots of good qualities, Llewellyn is certainly not perfect. The mistakes he makes and the choices that he makes actually show that he's caught up in the circumstances of his own life, and he's not the ideal. But as we are expecting that all of this will build up to a conflict of good versus evil, or at least our protagonist will somehow destroy the bad guy and keep the money and live happily ever after with his young wife, or will he get gunned down in some sort of epic battle before the sheriff, Tommy Lee Jones, also comes in and then stops the bad guy? How will this unfold? And the way that this ends up unfolding is that Llewellyn ends up dead. Not dead at the hands of our protagonist bad guy, but sort of randomly gunned down by other people supporting the cartel. And we don't actually get an ending that has, there is no justice for relentless fate, as Anton Chigurh wanders away from murdering Llewellyn's wife, gets in a car accident, gets injured, but then sort of staggers off. At the end of the film, we do not have the money. We don't know who has the money. Our protagonist is dead, but not at the hands of our other protagonist, and the story doesn't really end. It ends with Tommy Lee Jones. It ends with the sheriff, as it had opened with his monologue. It closes with his monologue talking about the changing nature of the world, the changing nature of crime, the changing nature of law enforcement, and the inevitability of relentless fate. People wiser than me that watched this film more often than I did noted all sorts of interesting stuff. There's symbolism in the shadows that are cast or the reflections in the television screen. There's symbolism in the three windmills that appear in the background in the story. You could do all sorts of stuff about the wounded dog and the dead dog and the dog he has to defend himself against from Albert Camus' dog. You could do... There's so much stuff in this movie that I don't dare try to analyze all of it. A lot of people don't like the film because of the way that it ends, but I think that's the whole point, is that it doesn't end. You and I are part of this cycle of history that keeps going on. And we get the story about the sheriff killed on his porch in 1908. And we get the stories about the sheriff now and his father and now him, and he's retired, and the changing nature of crime, the changing nature of the world. Our law enforcement riding horses in some scenes, always got their cowboy hats, but relentless fate, our persistent killer of our random, or as he perceives it, universal justice figure, looks more modern and does not dress in such a way. The story ends up pointing towards this inevitability of change that is not for the better, change as one minor character adds to the movie. You never really see what is coming. It's almost a meme to say life is about the journey, but really, No Country for Old Men is about the journey. Like so many Coen Brothers movies, it is 1,000% quotable. There's no empty space unless you need the empty space. But in the conversation, everything is significant in all aspects of everybody's. It's really amazing poetic stuff. And this is true of their humor in The Big Lebowski, of their drama, the incredible drama in True Grit. It's true in No Country for Old Men, and yet the whole film feels a little bit different than any of those others because it doesn't give us the full closure, because the point of the film is to say something about the lack of closure, about the inevitability of change, fate, destiny, or whatever, the inevitability of what's coming that we can't see. But it ends up giving us all of these fascinating, philosophical, introspective ideas along the way. We get Llewellyn, who is caught up in making this jackpot discovery of here's this free money, but it comes with all this risk, and that risk ends up getting him. That is the nature of life in the world, and anything that you do for a living or anything that you pursue. We have relentless fate, who does not walk away unscathed, but goes about with a cattle slaughter device, actually kills some people, and there's some symbolism in that of those marching aimlessly towards the slaughter. The first person we see him kill with that, literally what they do, they stand there and let him hold it up to their head because presumably they don't know what it is and they don't know that it's coming. The brief appearance by Woody Harrelson, which ends up kind of being a cameo, who we think is some badass tough character that's going to intervene and going to be able to stop Anton Chigurh. He could symbolize any number of things, from a failed theology to bad medicine. The idea that relentless fate could be stopped by this guy, and he struts in and he talks a big talk, and he ends up literally being nothing all that significant in the way of Anton Chigurh. He ends up killed relatively quickly, and there we go. Around these characters then, with the sheriff, the older sheriff, the young deputy, their stories about the past, all of this ties together to weave this fabric, this glimpse of a story that we didn't really see the beginning because we know nothing about the cartels or what went wrong at the deal. We don't know where Chigurh comes from. He's sort of the man with no name, except that he has a name, and he's not on the side of justice as we understand it. But we don't get a beginning of a story because we come in sort of the middle when the money is found. We don't have the end of the story because the money is still out there that is fate, waiting for someone else to take hold of it and pursue it, and to be chased by relentless fate for what they've chosen and what they do. I don't know how many more times I will end up watching this movie in the course of my life and continuing to be mystified by it in its entirety. But it is definitely one of those works of art. It's just really good stuff. I give it 2 thumbs up. If you've seen it, comment below. If not, watch it. Let me know what you think. No Country for Old Men.